Dragonflight Season 4 is coming to an end, and when is that going to happen? Well, Blizzard hasn't exactly told us, but here's what they said. Hello, champions of the Alliance and Horde. Let it be known that Dragonflight Season 4 will close soon. Players who make a big push to the end of the season will want to get started on their final weeks of efforts. When Season 4 ends, it will no longer be possible to earn PvP rewards, titles, and Dragonflight Season 4 rankings. For a time after the end of Season 4, most Mythic Plus achievements and rewards will remain earnable. We will let you know on the exact dates and times at the end of Season 4 and the beginning of the War Within Season 1 as soon as possible. Now, we know Season 1 of the War Within is not going to begin until a bit after the launch of the expansion. They're going to give us some time to level up and get ready and all that, so this is going to be a while off. We're going to have a bit of a gap, as we usually do between expansions. Please keep an eye on our official news site for that and all other WoW news. Wishing you the best of luck battling to a glorious finish. Yes, a finish and a closing of an era. It really feels like at the beginning of the World Soul Saga. I'm excited for it. I am. Whether that's just Copia, I have no idea. But all I know is I'm done with Dragonflight. I'm ready to move on, and I'm excited for the War Within. Here is a new mount for you 6-month subbers out there. Yeah, here it is, the new Blue Owl mount. This looks a lot like the Reigns of Anarles, the Flame Guidance. This is, the mount that you can get off of Mythic for Rock. This is basically an icy blue version of it. Thing looks really cool, actually. Let's view it in the model viewer here. Nice looking mount. Honestly, one of the cooler 6-month mounts. The owl is it's not maybe as cool as some of the other ones. That obviously the giant Murloc one was a very a fan favorite, but this one does look cool. It's a nice little icy boy. It's got some eyes that'll surely kill. Neat animations as well, I believe, to go with it. So if you haven't seen the owl mount from Farrak, they have some pretty cool custom animations as well. Nice little snowy effects coming off of this one. So again, this comes if you have a recurring 6-month sub going. So you're going to want to get that if you don't already have it. Or not. I've never gone with a 6-month subber, even though I stream this game. I don't know what it is. Just maybe I'm afraid of commitment. I can't figure it out. Some internal issues that I have to deal with. But players with an existing 6-month or 12-month recurring subscription plan with a future renewal date will receive a Charming Courier mount and the Swoopy Pet, which we'll talk about here in a second, at no additional charge. No later than July 23rd, must be redeemed by January 31st, 2025 through the Battle.net launcher. You can subscribe today, so if you're not already subbed, you can do it before July 23rd and still get this mount. So again, this is what it looks like. You also get the Swoopy Owl Pet, which is a nice little addition here for anybody who wants it in a classic WoW. So there you go. Double mounts, double fun. Not double mounts, single mount, but get it if you're interested. Mythic plus affixes. So we got about like 4 major changes here that happened in beta that are surely going to affect everything going forward in the War Within. So let's talk about some of those real quick. The first one is the new affix. So if you remember, recently Blizzard threw away all of the shitty affixes that they came up with not too long ago and came out with the Xal'atath bargain affixes. So those were Ascended and Frenzied. Ascended was one where basically the orbs would come down. It's very much the Razagath mechanic where these orbs come out and you got to interrupt them to get the buff, right? Or they'll explode and kill the raid. So this was basically the same thing but in a dungeon. Well, they've changed it recently. They said there was too much visual noise. 20 orbs were coming up. They're reducing it to 10 because people were saying there was way too much going on their screen. So Xal'atath's Bargain Ascendant will continue. The one that they're actually deleting is Xal'atath's Bargain Frenzied. So if you didn't know what this one was basically the Frenzied buff. Was I believe the group of guys that you were fighting would get a buff. And you would have to kill them in order to end that buff, and then you would get the buff yourself. I have to refresh my memory here. Here it is. Xal'atath's Frenzied. This is how it worked. So non-boss enemies would become frenzied at 30% health remaining, increasing their haste by 40%, but increasing their damage taken by 20%. So that was how that one worked, and that one is now gone. So it was like basically a race to the finish once their health got low. It was a bit punishing. That was the feedback. And lost the thematicness of it all, but just wasn't seen by players. So they're getting rid of it. And what is replacing it? Well, it's going to be Xal'atath's Bargain Voidbound. So while in combat, Xal'atath will summon a Void Emissary to empower nearby enemies, gradually increasing their damage. Upon defeating the Void Emissary, players will harness Void energy for themselves, increasing...
What's that? Brother, oh no.
What is this?
Brother,
That was actually beautiful, I have to admit. That was pretty good, but we're going to move on from that and pretend like it didn't happen. So the Void Emissary, upon defeating the Void Emissary, players will harness the Void energy for themselves, increasing their critical chance by 20% for 20 seconds. Now, this is a beautiful thing. Yeah, this is a... Brother, what's that? This is a great affix. That's what this is. This is a Kiss Curse. We've been asking for things like that. So a nice little addition here. This is gonna be basically, you know, your do your mechanic, get your buff, much like the Void guys were, the Dreadlords were back in the day when we had the Dreadlord mechanics that we could defeat them and then get a buff. If you're wondering what this is gonna look like, here it is. Now you're gonna have to watch closely because this happens pretty quick. I'm not sure if this is how fast it's gonna happen when this thing actually comes out, but Xal'atath's gonna come up. Here's this summoning. You see this orb happening right here? If you watch, there's a little blue orb gathering a bunch of orbs right here. This is where the Void Emissary is going to pop up. Now, it's only up for a couple seconds. These guys blast it down. It's probably going to get better as things go on, but as of right now, they delete it like in a second. And the Void Emissary's up, and now it's gone. They defeated it, and they got the little buff right here, which will last for 20 seconds, and they can just power through and kill it. This is going to lead to some cool chain pull moments and stuff. I think this is a really cool addition to Mythic Plus, probably one of the cooler affixes we've seen in quite a while, and it shows that Blizzard is listening to feedback. Absolutely glorious. Love to see this. Again, this is going to be a cool one for just kind of powering through things. You get a nice buff for 20 seconds. What a cool idea. Yeah, Kiss Curse. We've been asking for it, and we got it. Another change. Some big updates to classes, okay? Now, we're going to go across these. I'm going to summarize them real quick, but here is the gist of it. For Death Knights, you got Frost, increasing in damage across the board. 25% buff, 20% buff, 15% buff. Reaper's Mark of the Melee, 80% increase in damage. 30% here, so nice buffs for Frost across the board. Frost is going to be pretty good, it looks like. A Raider of the Apocalypse, we see Death Coil increased. White Mane's Undeath Cast increased. Tollbane increased. Trollbane's Ice Fury deals damage beyond 8 targets. Nice increase in AoE damage there. So nice stuff for Unholy as well for them. It's going to be Undeath damage now scales with Unholy Death Knights. Trollblanes. So these are nice little additions to the Riders of the Apocalypse. And Sandlayan, Infliction of Sorrows now extends the duration of Viren Plague by 3 seconds, was 2. So that's going to last longer. Very nice stuff. Now let's see what Demon Hunters are getting, because they are getting a bit of a nerf hammer. Yeah. Thrill of the Fight, reduced by 20%, was 30. Revere's Mark damage increased. Reduced by 24%. Okay, so there's an increase from this. That increase is reduced. That's what this is. So it was 30%, now it's 24%. Revere's Mark converted to stacks, now grants 1 stack if the cast first 2 seconds in the first 2 seconds. So I'm not sure if that's what's going on there. You guys can speak to it if you're a Demon Hunter. And then Havoc, Warblade's Hunger, Fellblade now consumes 5 nearby soul fragments. Okay, that's fine. Seems like a bit of nerfing, maybe slight buffs here and there, but overall this seems like kind of a nerf. Consuming lesser souls now heals for 6%, was 10 for Havoc. There you go again. Druids, moving on to them. Looks like buffs across the board for Restoration, 15% increases across the board for a bunch of abilities here. We see Evoker also getting a damage increase for about 30%. Devastation increases here, 15%. Preservation, looks like they're getting increases of 10% here for Empowerment and for Reversion's healing. So that's good for them. Hunters, Rejuvenation Winds will now heal for 12%. Maximum health was 20. Oh, so a little backtracking there for Hunters. Hunters have been getting buffs out the ass, so that's a little bit of backtracking, but that's all right for them. Survival, we talked about a couple of these not too long ago. The Grenade Juggler stuff, these are all little buffs for Survival. Nice for them. Mage, here we go. Reabsorption, 3% maximum healing was 5, so that's a little bit of a buff. A little bit of a hammer there. 25, 30% here, maximum health over the duration. 40 to 80. So that's another little nerf hammer there. We see a couple little, what is this? Nerfs effective 50%. Spells no longer have a chance to grant clear casting. A couple nerfs here as well for hero talents. Frost. Control Instincts now has a 4-second grace period, so that's fine, whatever that is. Arcane, we've seen reductions across the board. Arcane has been popping off. If you haven't seen what Arcane's done yet on the beta servers, it was like one of the best DPS classes. So even with these reductions, we'll see how things balance out, but I figured a nerf hammer was coming for Arcane. Frost, we see a couple different things here, a couple buffs, so that's a little bit of good stuff for Frost. Let's move on to Monk here. Healing Elixir now heals for 10%, maximum health was 15. Mistweaver Overflowing Mist now heals for 1.2% health, was 1 to 2. Now there is a common theme here with healing that we're going to talk about in a second. They did a major change to healing, basically percentage-wise, and that's why we're seeing some nerfs to some of this stuff. Paladins. We see decreases across the board for Herald of the Sun, when Retribution and Holy can use this, so decreases across the board there. Templar, we're also seeing some damage reductions here as well, and Retribution effectiveness reduced. Scarlet's Crusade effectiveness reduced by 25%. Paladins, one of the best spots too. As I was just talking about, Arcane Mage, great spot. Paladins, great spot. They were going to get nerfed eventually, so there it is. What about the Samiccus affix? There is no such thing. It's a buff. Holy Light, healing decreased by 20%, so another basically nerf there. Retribution, I think we're also seeing some nerfs here. Yeah, increased damage. Divine Storm increased damage. Now heals for 3%, was 5%, so some rebalancing here for Retribution. A few maybe buffs and nerfs back and forth. We'll see how those things play out later on. Damage reduced by 20% for Shadow Priests for Collapsing Voids, so there's a little bit of a nerf there. Discipline now heals 15%, was 25. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about the healing changes. Rogue, maximum absorb health was 18%, was 30%, now 18. A little bit of a nerf there, and 15% health over its duration was 24. So a couple things there for healing, nerfs as well for rogues. Shamans, damage increased for Tempest by 50%. Damn. Another buff here for Elemental Enhancement. They had a revision of a prior reduction, so that's another basically buff for enhancement. So Shamans across the board getting some nice buffs there. Restoration, healing reduced. We'll talk a little bit about that again. I'm not going to keep saying that. Warlock. Moving on to Warlock. We got some buffs here. Damage increased by 30% for Blackened Soul. A couple buffs. Another buff here. So a nice little Hellcaller buffs for their hero talents. And Soul Stream, let's see what this is about. Another increase in damage. So nice buffs for Warlocks. I think Warlocks were a bit mid-tier lately, so it's good to see them getting a little bit of a buff. Blah, blah, blah. When are we doing keys? Soon. And maybe I'll invite a Paladin because they seem to be buffed out the ass, as of now at least. Recently reduced. Warriors. Again, healing changes. A couple things here. And then player versus player, PvP shit. Some reductions and different things. You guys could check some of this stuff out for Hunter and Priest. That's fine. I'll link this in the chat so you guys can actually check these out for yourself based on whatever class you're playing in the game. Another change, as I said, healing. Got a big, basically revamp, redevelopment, whatever you want to call it. But basically the percentage-based healing. We know there's a lot of spells out there that heal based on a percentage of health. Well, those have recently gotten nerfed, and that's because the percentage of health, you know, the amount of health people have is greatly increasing as you move from expansion to expansion. And Blizzard doesn't want that to become basically the main source of healing. Essentially, they're saying that a percentage-based healing is the way to go, and anything else is kind of trash. So they want basically to create strengthen, I should say, regular healing, single target and hybrid healing. They want those things to become stronger and to reduce a little bit on percentage-based healing. So that's why we saw recently, we just checked them out, all the different changes. A lot of the percentage-based healing got reduced. And that doesn't mean that the amount of healing is reduced from them. In fact, it could still be more because the heal pool, the amount of health for every pool is so big. But they just wanted to reduce the percentage in general so it doesn't just completely delete the need for hybrid or single target healing. So that's why those changes were made. And last but not least here, Blizzard is responding to Delve feedback. Yes, I heard they were deleting DKs. That would never happen, Tidewell. Best class in the game. Come on. Blizzard has responded to Delve feedback So basically, they're trying to tune the experience so that way classes themselves don't feel like one is better at delves than the other. Now, that's a hard thing to balance. You're always going to have those, single... If you're running something by yourself, there's always going to be those classes that are just better at it than others based on their utilities. But they're trying to keep those things, in check. They're taking feedback, and they said they're working on making sure that classes are more well-balanced to be able to basically run these things by themselves if you want to do it that way. Now, Bountiful Delves, if you don't remember what these were, Bountiful Delves are basically, you can kind of look at it like a, Fated Raids or whatever, where one of the delves will become empowered every day. And when that delve is empowered, it doesn't mean it's harder, but it kind of becomes, you have a couple lives that you can use to get through the delve. If you use up all your lives, you mess it up. But if you get through it without dying a certain amount of times, you will get an extra loot box at the end. And you use the key that you've been getting by doing world quests and stuff like that to open that box. So that's what the whole Bountiful Delve system is. But basically, they want to, the way that they're rolling this out is they want Bountiful Delves will be consumed upon completion. Bountiful Delve-based chests are upgraded in quality, and locked chests are still here, but will go away if you lose all of your lives. So that's kind of the stuff I just went over. Our goal with Bountiful Delves being consumed is to encourage players to see more delves and their variants. We're modifying how many keys players can get per week, while also increasing the base rewards for Bountiful Delves so that they are still worth running even without any keys. So they basically don't want you to just spam run that single delve. They want you to still get variety out of it. So they're trying to rebalance how things work. So basically the chests will, you won't get as many chests as often. You can't keep doing it, but the chests that you do get should give you more rewards. That's kind of the rebalancing they did there. Bran Bronzebeard is also getting rebalanced. They're trying to, modify how his abilities work, how often he doves them. He's going to get them at earlier levels. They were talking about some of that. If you don't remember, Bran is, you're the companion that's going to run delves with you. And he is actually account-wide, warband bound, basically. So if you empower Bran on your main character, he will be the same strength for your alts. So he'll help your alts run through delves quicker, right? The way he heals, all the shit that he does, all these things are being rebalanced. They're still working on making sure that he's ready to go for the War Within. So that's what those notes were about. In general, player cast cooldowns will now reset after wiping on a boss encounter, which is a nice little change there. And then a few little changes to the delves themselves individually. I don't really know much about the delves in general. I haven't run them that much on beta, so I don't know what any of this stuff means. But I guess they're making some balance changes to some of that stuff. And that is all in terms of news.